A wall of static rolled across every screen on Earth. Then the signal broke through. A man appeared, standing inside a dark hall of polished metal. His voice filled every home, every base, every street that still had power. "This is President Kalendros," he said. "We were the first who left Earth. Now we return. Surrender your world." His face was calm, his eyes unreadable. Behind him stood soldiers in black armor. A giant banner with a silver mark hung behind them, the symbol of his new rule. Then the feed went black. Inside Denver Command, alarms screamed. President Laura Kane stood at the center of a steel briefing room, lit by red emergency lights. Her staff whispered to each other.
"Ow."
General Scott Halpern stepped forward. "Madam President, the Orbit Patrol reports contact over South America. Unknown ships. They're targeting power grids." Kane's jaw tightened. "How fast?" "Impact in 2 minutes." The holographic map flickered to life. Blue points marked cities. Then they turned red one by one: Buenos Aires, then Lagos, then Sydney. The first orbital strikes hit the planet before Kane could speak again. The ground shook. Glass shattered in the command center. Outside Denver, people ran under the orange glow of the sky. Bolts of fire moved across the clouds like falling suns. Power grids shorted out. Satellites fell. Communication towers turned to molten scrap. Kane grabbed the edge of the briefing table to keep her balance. "They want us to panic," she said. "We won't." Her communications officer checked the panels. "We've lost half the orbit channels. Can't reach the European net or the Asian coalition." "Send everything we have left to the Eastern Fleet," Kane said. "Mobilize ground defense. They hit civilians first, because they think we'll break." "Yes, ma'am." She looked at her reflection in a cracked monitor. Her hand was shaking. She clenched it into a fist. "Get me Dross on a military line," she ordered. "Ma'am, his signal is scrambled." "We can't trace where he's broadcasting from." "Then find it." "I want to know how close he's willing to bring this war." Suddenly the lights cut out. The command room dropped into darkness. Only the faint hum of cooling fans remained. Every screen, every console, every radio died at once. Halpern stared into the shadows. "That's not a power surge. They're inside the grid." Kane turned toward the glass wall, where the red glow of distant fires painted the sky. "They shut us down," she said. "They want us blind." Before anyone could answer, a voice crackled through the emergency speakers. It was deep and clear, echoing across the silent room. "President Kane," the voice said. "I told you to surrender." Every officer froze. The sound came from their own network. Kane's face hardened. "Trace that signal," she said. No one moved. The voice spoke again, quieter this time. "We're already here." Smoke filled the Denver skyline by dawn. The air smelled like metal and ash. The power grid stayed dead, and the sound of panic grew in the streets below the mountain base. Inside the concrete halls of command, the flashing red lights gave everything a sick tint. President Laura Kane hadn't slept. Her uniform was torn at the sleeve, dust still on her face from the blast that hit the night before. Around her, engineers worked by flashlight, running cables across the floor. The hum of portable generators was the only steady sound left. General Scott Halpern walked in, helmet tucked under his arm. His eyes were bloodshot. "We have something," he said. "A downed enemy transport. It crashed outside Lawrence, Kansas. We tracked it by heat pattern. Looks intact enough for a search." Kane turned toward the digital map that now glowed in faint orange. "Take a team," she said. "Find what's inside. Need to know what we're fighting before we plan anything." Halpern nodded. "If they can kill our grid, we're already late." She looked at him for a long second. "Then don't come back empty." By midday, Halpern's convoy rolled across blackened highways. The sky above was covered in drifting debris. Their trucks kicked up dust through abandoned towns. The radio hissed with static. In the distance, the wreck glowed faintly. The enemy ship had slammed into a cornfield, slicing a long trench through the dirt. Its hull was dark, made of some smooth alloy that reflected no light. Halpern's squad spread out with rifles ready. "Anyone alive in there?" one soldier called out. No answer. Halpern stepped inside through a hole in the hull. The heat made his lungs sting. The corridors were narrow, filled with smoke and metal shards. They found bodies, men and women, all human. But they looked wrong. Their skin shimmered faintly with thin metallic lines under it, like circuitry moving through veins. Private Jacobs knelt beside one. "Sir, they're enhanced. Looks like grafted tech." "Who would do this?" Halpern stared at the burned insignia on a uniform sleeve. The symbol wasn't foreign at all. It matched an old Earth military code from a deep space colony project that had vanished a century ago. "They're ours," he said quietly. They were. Behind him, someone shouted, "General, we've got movement." A wounded soldier dragged herself from the shadows, her voice broken.
"You left us," she said.
Her eyes glowed faint blue for a second. Then she reached for something on her chest, a small transmitter. Halpern dropped to one knee. "Wait, don't touch." The transmitter blinked red. A blast of light erupted. The team was thrown backward as fire tore through the wreck. In the distance, a pulse of energy shot into the clouds and vanished into the sky. Halpern coughed, ears ringing, staring upward. "They signaled someone," he muttered. "Shh." Then his radio came alive again, carrying Kane's voice through static. "General, come in. We just lost the eastern defense fields. The blackout is spreading, and over the comm another voice broke in, calm, confident, and familiar. "Stand down, General," it said. "You can't win this war against your own blood." The convoy made it back to Denver before sunrise. Dust covered the trucks. The soldiers moved like ghosts, silent and hollow-eyed. General Halpern walked straight to the command center without cleaning up. President Kane was already there, pacing beside the main display table. The power still flickered in unstable waves, monitors glitching in bursts of static. Dr. Rachel Soto stood beside her, holding a cracked tablet full of half-recovered data. Halpern tossed a scorched helmet onto the table. "We found them. Whoever's leading this army, they're not strangers. They're modified, grown out of Earth tech. Project Eden." Soto nodded. "He's right. I pulled fragments from one of their tracking systems before it burned out. It matches experimental biointerface research from secret bases that were supposed to shut down decades ago. Someone kept developing it." Kane crossed her arms. "And now they're using it against us." "Worse," Halpern said. "I think we abandoned them." He turned towards Soto, one of their soldiers. "Said we left them to die out there." The room fell quiet. The faint hum of emergency power filled the space. Soto spoke softly. "Maybe that's true. The first wave of colonists never came back. Maybe they were told the same story about us." Kane slammed her hand on the table. "I don't care what they were told. They're destroying our cities. I need a counterstrike plan." Halpern leaned over the holographic map. "They control high orbit. If we can breach one of their relay stations, we might cut their blackout net. But it would take a direct insertion manual override on site." Kane looked up, meaning someone has to go up there and shut it down by hand. "Yes, ma'am. A small team." "My team. You wouldn't make it back," Soto said. Halpern didn't answer. He kept studying the map, the curves of their satellite routes, the red dots marking enemy stations. At last he said, "If we don't try, there won't be anything left to come back to." Kane stared at him for several seconds, her face sharp in the dim light. Then she nodded once. "You have clearance. Gear up, and move within 6 hours. We'll find you a launch line that still works." Halpern gave a short nod and turned to leave. When he was gone, Soto leaned toward Kane. "That mission's suicide, I know," Kane said. "But it's the kind of suicide this world understands." Before she could say more, one of the technicians shouted from a nearby console, "Ma'am, we just intercepted a feed, not military. It's coming from every civilian channel left operating." The large screen behind them flickered, struggling against interference. Face appeared, grainy and pale, but familiar. Kellen Dross looked straight into the camera. "This war doesn't end with your cities," he said. "It ends with history itself." Static hissed across the speakers. The image froze for a second, then shifted. For a brief moment, the face on the screen wasn't Dross. It was Halpern staring back at them, eyes blank, voice matching Dross's. Then the signal died. The launch site sat deep under the mountains, carved into rock and steel. The air was cold. Every sound echoed: the clank of boots, the hiss of fuel lines, the hum of engines heating beneath the platform.
Halpern.
General Halpern stood beside the railgun capsule that would send his team into orbit. It looked too small for what it had to do, more coffin than ship. His hand shook as he sealed his helmet. He didn't bother hiding it. No one in the crew had the strength left to pretend. Captain Elias Ward ran a systems check. Pressure stable. If the rail charge holds, we should hit relay orbit in 9 minutes. If it doesn't, Halpern asked. Ward gave a thin smile. Then we'll die fast. Halpern turned as a screen flickered beside the platform. President Kane appeared, her signal carrying heavy distortion. Lines ran down her face from exhaustion, but her voice stayed steady. General, she said, the blackout field keeps spreading. Europe has gone dark. If you fail, they'll hit North America next. You're Earth's last shot. No pressure. Copy that, ma'am, Halpern said. We'll light it back up. Kane's voice softened. What you saw down there, those soldiers, they were made by us. The truth may be the only weapon left. Bring back proof if you can. Before Halpern could answer, the feed cut out. Power fluctuations rippled through the chamber. The lights dimmed once, twice, then steadied again. Technicians shouted as the main chamber doors sealed behind the team. Launch in 60, Ward said. The railgun's coils began to glow faint blue. Static crawled through everyone's cums. Halpern looked out through the glass panel that showed a thin line of the night sky above. It looked peaceful, but he knew orbit was filled with wreckage and burning metal. At 40 seconds, the floor started to shake. A deep rumble rolled up the tunnel. Ward glanced at the monitors, reading seismic interference. Unknown source? Halpern felt the hairs on his arms rise. Stay on target. Discharge in 10. The capsule locked. The noise became like thunder. The crew braced. Then came the shot, one violent thrust so strong that Halpern thought his chest would burst. The world outside became a streak of color and pressure. The screams of metal filled the capsule as it ripped through the atmosphere. Alarms blared. One of the side panels shattered. Stabilize spin, Ward yelled, slamming his hand against the controls. We're venting fuel. A flash tore across the viewport. The launch tunnel below erupted in a ball of fire. The entire site was gone, consumed in one blast. Halpern caught a glance through the smoke, dozens of enemy drones descending through the clouds. They had found the railgun. He gritted his teeth as gravity disappeared. Smoke curled in the capsule. Half the crew was unconscious. Beyond the cracked window, the curve of Earth shone against the black. Ward breathed out, blood on his visor. We made orbit, he said, but they're waiting for us. Outside, the enemy relay station loomed a dark fortress turning slowly in the sunlight. Its targeting lights had already locked on them. The capsule hit hard. Metal screamed as it tore through the enemy station's hull, spinning until it locked against the inner corridor. Sparks rained. Oxygen leaked in white streaks that froze before the air vents sealed off. Halpern kicked the hatch open. His boots caught the deck and magnets clamped him down. Move, he shouted. Ward and the last two survivors followed, rifles raised. The hallway stretched in both directions, pale and cold, lit by rows of trembling lights. The walls vibrated with the deep pulse of machinery. Life support's running on its own grid, Ward said. They built this place to last. Doesn't matter, Halpern said. We find the core and kill the signal. They advanced deeper, passing dark glass panels filled with tangled cables. Behind one wall, Halpern saw shadows floating in tanks, figures that looked almost human. Their eyes closed, skin marked with the same circuitry veins he had seen in the wreck on Earth. Ward whispered, "They're building more of them." Halpern felt sick. "Then we end the assembly line." They reached the central chamber. A reactor tower rose through the ceiling, bright white at the center and burning like lightning. At the base of it, half fused into a metal cradle, was Kellen Dross. Cables ran from his spine to the machine behind him. His face turned as they entered. "I knew you'd come, General," he said. His voice sounded normal and wrong at the same time. Always faithful, always late. Halpern leveled his weapon. "This ends now." Dross smiled slightly. "You can't end what built you. I am what Earth wanted, a soldier without fear, a leader without doubt. You all just refused to finish the work. You turned people into weapons," Halpern said. "They turned themselves. I only perfected it." Ward moved toward the control panels, working fast. "If we blow the reactor, the blackout dies with it," he said. Dross's eyes flicked toward him. The lights in the chamber brightened in a sudden pulse. Ward screamed as the current hit him. He fell, smoke rising from his suit. Halpern fired. The rounds hit Dross's body, sparks flying where armor met skin. Dross did not fall. He pulled himself free of the cradle, connected cables tearing loose. The whole station shuddered. Can't stop evolution, Dross said. Halpern ran for the control console. A heavy shockwave rolled through the floor. Alarms began blaring. The reactor was destabilizing on its own, spiking past safe levels. Kane's voice came through Halpern's come in bursts of static. General, the enemy ships are losing coordination. Whatever you're doing, finish it. Halpern set the reactor to overload. Dross lunged toward him, movements jerky but fast. Halpern caught his arm and shoved him backward into the fissuring core. The light swallowed the chamber. Through the glare, Dross's voice broke apart. You'll come back to me, General. They never stop what they start. The blast tore outward. Above Earth, the blackout vanished. Lights blinked alive across continents. In the silence that followed, Kane stood alone in Denver Command, staring at the first sunrise in weeks. The reports called it victory. But hours later, a new signal rose across the net, clear and calm. This is Commander Halpern, the voice said. I'm coming home.